Welcome to CrowdSec Mastery. If you've ever banned an IP with Fail2ban and thought there had to be a better way in 2026, you're in the right place. Over the next 13 lessons, across 4 stages, we'll build up from the mental model to a real multi-server deployment with community block lists, custom scenarios, and the console dashboard. Same core idea as Fail2ban: parse logs, ban bad IPs, but redesigned around a 95,000 server community, decoupled detection and remediation, pluggable bouncers, and a built-in WAF. By lesson 12, you'll be shipping. Here's the roadmap. Stage 1, Foundations, is about the mental model. By the end, you can install CrowdSec and feed it logs. Stage 2, Detection, is the brain. Parsers, scenarios, decisions, the LAPI. You'll understand how CrowdSec actually catches attackers. Stage 3, Remediation, is where bans hit real iptables and Nginx, plus the community hub. And Stage 4, Production, puts it all together across a fleet with the console. Each stage builds on the last. No skipping ahead. Before we touch a single config file, let's talk about why CrowdSec exists at all. Fail2ban is genuinely good software. It's been guarding Linux boxes for 2 decades, but it was built when your server was an island. Think about 3 things that have changed since then. Isolation. Each Fail2ban instance learns alone. So when server A bans an attacker, server B gets hit by the same IP 30 seconds later. Coupling. Detection and firewall rules live tangled in one daemon, which makes scaling painful. And visibility. It reads log lines, but it never sees inside an HTTP request body. CrowdSec rethinks all 3: community-shared intel, decoupled detection and remediation, and a real application layer WAF. So before you pick a side, hear me out. This isn't really either-or. Plenty of production boxes run both. Fail2ban guarding the legacy SSH and mail services, it's always handled well. CrowdSec covering the modern stack and pulling in the community block list. The table on screen lays out 9 dimensions where they actually differ: architecture, detection, threat intel, remediation, WAF, scaling, multi-server, dashboard, learning curve. Notice the pattern. Fail2ban is simpler and more isolated. CrowdSec is steeper to learn but built for a networked, decoupled world. Keep that trade-off in mind as we go. And this is the single sentence that makes CrowdSec click. Detect here, remedy there. Detection, parsing logs, firing scenarios, happens in the agent. Remediation, actually dropping packets or returning a 403, happens in a bouncer. In between sits LAPI, the local API that holds the decisions. The agent on one box can ban an IP, and a bouncer on a completely different box enforces it. Once that separation lives in your head, every config choice from here on will feel obvious. So let's put names on those pieces. 4 components, 1 system. The agent is the brain. It reads your logs, parses them, and decides when something looks like an attack. LAPI is the database layer, a local API backed by SQLite that holds every active decision. The bouncer is the enforcer, polling LAPI and turning decisions into real firewall rules or Nginx blocks. And the hub is the marketplace, community-curated parsers and scenarios you pull in with CSSCLI. Brain, database, enforcer, marketplace. Memorize those 4 words, and every diagram from here on reads itself. Now here's where CrowdSec leaves Fail2ban in 2004 for good. 95,000 active instances, 30 million attack signals reported every single day, 5 million malicious IPs sitting in the central database, and under 5 minutes from the moment one node sees an attack to the moment that IP lands on your firewall. The math is simple. When a server in Singapore gets probed, your server in Frankfurt already knows. That's the shift from reactive to proactive defense. And yes, subscribing is free and optional. You can run fully offline. But honestly, the block list is why you're here. And once you're plugged into that network, you'll want a place to actually see it all. The CrowdSec console is a managed web dashboard at app.crowdsec.net, where every one of your instances phones home. 5 servers, 50, doesn't matter. You get one pane of glass, active decisions, alerts in the last 24 hours, recent blocks with the source IP and which node caught them. It's completely optional. The free tier handles 3 instances and will wire it up properly in Lesson 10. Before we kick off Lesson 01, let's make sure you're set up for success. On the must-know side, I'm assuming you're comfortable at the Linux command line, you understand basic networking and what a daemon is, and you can tail a log file without breaking a sweat. Fail2ban experience is a nice bonus, but genuinely not required. Everything CrowdSec specific, YAML, Grok, leaky buckets, parsers, bouncers, we'll cover in course. For the labs, grab a modern Ubuntu, Debian, RHEL, or Rocky VM with 2 vCPUs, 2 gigs of RAM, and sudo. That's it. If anything on the red list feels shaky, spend an hour brushing up now. Future, you will be grateful. Now zoom out for a second and look at the whole arc. 13 lessons, 4 stages. Foundations gets you installed and feeding logs. Detection is where you learn to think like the engine. Parsers, scenarios, the LAPI. Remediation is where decisions become action through IP tables, Nginx, and the Community Hub. And production is where it stops being a lab and becomes a fleet you actually run, ending with your certification at Lesson 12. That's the road. Every cell on this grid is a skill you'll own by the end. Before we dive in, let's be honest about where this course doesn't go. 3 areas we deliberately leave out. Deep AppSec and WAF tuning. We touch the basics in Lesson 11, but custom signatures and PCI workflows belong in a dedicated course. Cloud provider integrations. We stay on a generic Linux box because the patterns transfer even when the syntax doesn't. And custom development, writing parsers in Go or building bouncers from scratch, is its own rabbit hole. Knowing the boundary is what lets us go deep on everything that's actually in scope. And that's Lesson 0 in the bag. You've got the mental model, detect on one box, remedy on another, 4 components talking through the LAPI, a 95,000 machine community feeding the signal, and a clear 12-lesson path ahead. Next up, Lesson 1. We sharpen the definition. What CrowdSec actually is, where it unifies IPS, IDS, and WAF thinking, and just as importantly, what it isn't. See you there.